So step in when you're ready. I, for one, am enormously excited to use my podium. It's a big day. If anyone has, by the way, any podium envy, you're just working with that, we can share. Patrick, it's awesome. Thank you. I just madly appreciate it. Actually, just it's great. Thank you. Okay. So I want to try, if we can. First off, we just have a big round of applause for everybody. Just have a big round. Just hear like energy. Like, hello, good morning. Hello. Woo! Hello. Let's wake up. Woo! Yes. Mad yes. So let's just stay in that for a second, okay? Let's stay in that for a second. And we got like lots of unfoldings, but I just want to just bow at the beginning, right, to, and that round of applause specifically for Claire and Shahati, right, who've kind of held the space and woven the space, and Chris just stepped in behind the scenes 1,000 times as their kind of invisible next stage partner, right? James and Mickey have stepped in, right, to kind of hold the space in the ways they beautifully have. But right now, I'm going to take Krista aside and James and Mickey aside and just focus on Claire and Shot, who've done 1,000 things, right, invisibly, right, to weave this place together, right, and to bring us here. So let's just actually all just stand up for a second and give them our huge appreciation. Like, huge applause. Oh, my God. Yay. Woo! Let's give it up. Yes. Give it up. Oh, my God. Yes. Yes. We appreciate you madly. Yay. Thank you. And what we're going to do now is, thank you. What we're going to do now is, we're going to try and can I borrow someone's phone or clock or something like that, some instrument of timekeeping? Yeah. If anyone has an expensive watch they'd like to pass up there with a credit card, it'd be very nice. Hold on. Awesome. I can't really read this well. Okay. 125. Okay, awesome. Got it. Thank you. Perfect. Okay, we got that. Oh, 136. I got it. Okay. Got it. Okay. Okay, so here we go. Okay? So let's see if we can hit 3 major points just to kind of bring us in. And then we'll get started, okay? Okay, so let's take 3 big points, okay, which I want to try and find, okay? So here's one. So if everything we've said is true, and we've barely, and who was with us last year online and in person, either in person or online last year? Okay, so do you remember the first day last year when we did the tragic? Right? Aren't you glad we're not doing that again? Right? Let's do it again anyways. No, right? Right, like, whoa, right? So keep that in mind, okay? Just hold that. We're not going to do it, but just hold it, because it's more true this year than last year. And the truth is, I feel out of integrity not doing it again, but just be one more thing on the list. Okay, so there we go. Okay, so but just hold it. Can we hold it? Right, we hold it. Just hold that for a second, okay? So if that's all true, why are we here together in a kind of celebratory place? And we are celebratory. This week's going to be about celebration. This week's going to be about joy. It's going to be about outrageously loving. It's going to be about pride. So what are we doing? Right? And are we just turning away? Right? Are we commodifying the meta crisis, right, to create a seminar and give us a topic? Right? Let's commodify the meta crisis. That's happening in certain places. Right? Like, why are we celebrating? Right? And why is our mood, although it's extremely serious, but our mood should also be, and it should be, celebration. Right? So why would that be? And I want to try and touch something here, which is a really big deal, and try and kind of establish this principle of celebration in the midst of a meta crisis, which is really, really important. It's how do I actually engage? right? So you remember there was a poet, great man named Langston Hughes, an American black poet, and he wrote a poem called Harlem, right? Harlem. And Harlem is right now an up-and-coming neighborhood in Manhattan, right? But when he wrote this poem, right, it was a ghettoized, right, tragic neighborhood in Manhattan. Actually, both of those neighborhoods still live right next to each other in the way urban places often do. And he writes, and just hear this for a second, it's crazy beautiful. He says, what happens to a dream deferred? And stay with me on the English, right? Deferred means you delay it. Has everyone got that word? Okay. What happens to a dream deferred? Does it dry up like a raisin in the sun? Or fester like a sore and then run? Does it stink like rotten meat? Or crust and sugar over like a syrupy sweet? Maybe it just sags like a heavy load, or does it explode? Krista, you good? We're good. We don't need anything right now. We're good. Okay? Thank you. Super thanks. Super thanks. Okay? Grab this again with me, okay? What happens to a dream deferred? Does it dry up like a raisin in the sun? So what is he talking about? What is he talking about? Anybody? What happens when you're actually thinking about what the world needs to be? You're thinking about the dream. Right? Maybe your name's Pol Pot. Right? Maybe your name's Stalin. Maybe your name's Mao. You're thinking about what the world should be. You've got a dream of what it looks like. But you're not willing, you can't defer the dream. Right? So because you don't know how to live in the dream deferred, so you try and reshape the world immediately the way you want it to be, and you inflict more suffering, right, than all the other forces of history. So it's subtle. In other words, what do you do with a dream you can't realize? Does everyone get the question? Right? So now it's existential risk. Right? What happens to a dream deferred? But what happens when you delay the dream? So the reason Stalin and Mao, right, and Pol Pot, right, and all the other forces of utopianism, you with me, go to immediately enact the dream because they can't, right? They can't delay it, right? Right? Because it's going to dry up like a raisin in the sun, right? And so what they, right? And it'll explode, so they explode reality instead of exploding the dream. Does everyone get that? Right? It's subtle. It's a big deal. So we don't want to do that, right? So what do we do, though? Because the dream is deferred. What happens to a dream deferred? Does it dry up like a raisin in the sun, right? So what we need to do is, and it's very subtle, right? The only way you can change the world is if you're willing to already live in the already changed world. You get that? And it's the only way you can change the world responsibly if you're willing not to wait for it to change, but to already live in the already changed world. Right? Meaning, I can't wait till I've handled existential risk. Right? When I've handled it, then I'm going to celebrate. Right? Then I'm going to make love. Then I'm going to dance. Right? Then I'm going to sing. But until then, right, I'm going to actually be nose to the grindstone, right? And I've got to actually save the world. Whoa, that's dangerous. Right? In other words, it's very beautiful. Or what happens to a dream deferred? Does it dry up like a raisin in the sun, or fester like a sore and then run? Does it stink like rotten meat, or crust and sugar over like a syrupy sweet? Maybe it just sags like a heavy load, or does it explode? So there's this gorgeous dance we have to do together. Right? We call it, the fancy word is dialectic. And the dialectic is that we have to, on the one hand, not turn away. Robert K. Lifton wrote a wildly important book called Facing Apocalypse 30 years ago. Definite read, right? Facing Apocalypse. So how am I willing to actually face existential risk? It's one of the most important books ever written. It was early on. He actually got existential risk, and he wrote a series of studies about, a number of issues. He's one of the most important thinkers, of the last 40, 50 years. And this book, Facing Apocalypse, is how do you not turn away? And at the same time, if you don't turn away, right, and then you defer the dream because you're engaging in this serious work, does it dry up like a raisin in the sun, right, or fester like a heavy load, and then explode? So I want to establish a principle, if we can, which is you can't be trusted to change the world. Right? And you can't change the world unless you're willing to already live in the world that's already changed. So we're living here this week in the world that's already changed. Even as we're going to look at how we evolved the source code to actually change it, but we're not waiting for it to change. We're already living in the world that's already changed. Okay? It's like, wow. So I want to give that name, right? Give that a name. I want to call that living the dream. That's dream time. Right? So I want to welcome us, if I can, with permission, right? Humbly and audaciously to dream time. We're in dream time. Let's be in dream time. Right? This week we're going to live the dream. Right? Audaciously, fiercely. Right? And so although we're facing existential risk, we're not deferring the dream. Because what happens to a dream deferred, right? Does it dry up like a raisin in the sun, or fester like a heavy load and then explode? Right? And so we have to be able to hold that radical joy and to live the dream. Now, paradoxically, and this is wildly beautiful, there's actually, and when we say we're going to weave pre-modern, modern, and postmodern, there's actually an interior technology, which is called living the dream. There's a technology that was very well developed, right, over a couple of thousand years called living the dream, right? And when I was in Dharamsala, right, I was in Dharamsala, and, I was in the back room and was chatting with Mr. Dali, Mr. Alama Dali, who I told you the story before, I won't tell you again, who I'd had a fight with at the Pope's summer residence, and we wound up, he took my Jewish skull cap, right, and, I went to Dharamsala to get it at his invitation, so I'm with him there in his back room in Dharamsala, and we're talking, and he's madly depressed, right, underneath his kind of, haha, right, which is very happy, he's also just madly depressed, right, and that's, first off, in Dharamsala, no one's paying him a lot of attention. Tibet, he's completely demonized. And people see his picture in Tibet, literally. They see his picture and they go into paroxysms of hatred and loathing. Right? I actually saw a woman do that, a Chinese woman who was a musician at an event, right, who was living in Tibet. I actually saw his picture and went into a kind of paroxysm of, right, government-inspired, right? So he's having a hard time, and he said to me laughingly, he says, I go to the West because they like me there, right, right? Right, and so he says, like, what am I going to do, right? I mean, we're living, these 7 days in this gorgeous, insanely gorgeous place, right? This insanely gorgeous space. So he talked about his gorgeous spaces, and in the spaces of the temples of Tibet, right, that he grew up in, just magnificent, unimaginably magnificent. He said, it's all been destroyed, and what do I do? Right? And he turned to me and he said, you're from Jerusalem, so how did you guys do it? Right? And I said to him, we have a technology. And the technology is not to build a palace only in space, but to build a palace in time. That's called Sabbath. That's what Sabbath is. It's wild. You think about it, it's wild. Right? That every 7 days, thank you, every 7 days, you step into an already liberated world. No matter what oppression's going on, No matter what brutality, no matter what your socioeconomic class may be or not be, you spend a seventh, figure that out in terms of 70 years, you spend more time meditating in enlightened space than the most advanced meditator, right, as a nation, right? I mean, that's shocking, right? So there's this notion of Sabbath time. And in Sabbath time, and remember, we've got to actually weave together, right, a new story of value in which we integrate the best strands of wisdom in pre-modern, modern, and postmodern. So here's one from the traditional period. Live the dream. Dream time. Right? What happens to a dream deferred? Right? Does it dry up like a raisin in the sun? Right? Does it bloat like a heavy load and then explode? No, I live the dream. We don't wait. Right? So that's celebration. So I just want to just get that first thing on the table, just the first of three, and just two more short ones, right? But to really get it clear, right? Here's the sentence. You can only change the world if you're willing to already live in the world that's already changed. Does everyone get that sentence? It's a beautiful sentence. It's simple. You can only change the world if you're willing to already live in the world that's already changed. Right? So that's one. So we're in celebration. Okay, so welcome to celebration. And that's a big one.